Okay, I'm going to quickly demonstrate how to cob a photo in Photoshop. So to begin, you want to select your photo and find where your subject is. So in this picture, I'm going to go ahead and crop out the subject that is leaning up against the tree. So if we zoom in, we can see kind of where the person is standing and what the background is. The easiest way to do this is to come over here and on your sidebar get the quick selection tool. And up top here you'll see three different options. This one, and then you'll see the plus and the minus. Now those two will select. So say I have the plus selected, what that'll do is it'll automatically select what you click on, and it'll try to figure out what else in the picture matches what you're clicking on by color, shape, that kind of thing. Now say you're going through this and you accidentally go over something like this and it auto-selects, for instance, some bark behind the subject that you don't want. What you can do is hit the minus tool here or hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and go ahead and just select the part that it overshot, and it'll deselect that part of the photo. Now you want to be kind of careful with this because it can be a little bit picky and it can kind of jump all over the place depending on how you do it. But we're just going to go ahead and select the subject, get a just rough outline of the person, and then we can go in and fine-tune things later. Now that we have the rough outline made, we can go in and just trim out the fat here, get rid of some of the bark in the background that we don't really need, and it's pretty good. Photoshop does a really good job about removing stuff and kind of figuring out what should be there and what should not. So if you tell it a couple times that you don't want the bark in the background just by going on like this, you can see when I let go, it'll automatically fill out that part and make it look nice, which is very helpful, especially when you're working with little details like that. You can go in and just select the parts that you want to remove. So I'm going to go ahead and actually keep that hair part, maybe get rid of some of the bark up there, and then maybe some of the hair over here might look not great depending on where we're putting this picture. And you can get rid of that boat in the background, touch up a little bit more on here, and just make sure it's just the shirt that's getting selected and nothing else that's in the background. And what I always do to check and see how the photo looks before placing it anywhere seriously is I will go and just finish up the picture here real quick, and then take this picture as it is right now and hit Control C, just copy the picture, and then I'll go ahead and do a new photo. And when you do the new photo, it'll show up a box like this, and I'll just do on this selection box, just hit Custom and then Create. It doesn't really matter. Now hit Control V and paste that photo in. Now I just make sure that everything looks right. You can kind of move it around and see, and then you can see up right here I missed a spot and it's over selecting. So we can go back to the actual photo, come in, zoom in down here, maybe figure out where that is. It looks like it's over here, and then we can go back to the selection tool and just get rid of that. You can also change the size of the tool like this and make it a lot bigger, and then you can just go ahead and kind of go straight over any spots that you feel like you might have missed. Now once again we can go ahead and head back over to our dummy photo here and paste in subject, and you can see that part's now gone. The one other thing that might be worth mentioning is if you look at the picture up here, you can see it's kind of a jagged edge, which is not always great if you're putting the picture in somewhere where there's going to be other stuff in the background, because you don't want to just have a jaggedy picture. That does not look good at all. So we'll go back to this tool, and up here at the top you can see there's a couple of options that you can adjust. If you click this down arrow, there's an option that says hardness. Now if you turn this down, it's going to have a softer edge. You should also keep in mind when doing this though that it's going to slightly change the corners of the subject here. So I'll give an example. If we go ahead and just trim up here, and we can copy again, come back and paste the subject in. You can see now it's a lot smoother. However, it does get a little bit blurry, so if you have something that is going to be a specific subject that you want, perhaps a sign with some text on it, you might not want to have the hardness turned down too much, but you can kind of play around with that and see. It's also important to know that when you adjust the hardness on here, this does not apply to portions of the photo that you have already selected. So all of this, if you want to change the hardness, you will have to go back in and reselect the subject, which is not that difficult. We can see an example here. If we just get rid of all of this here, and we'll just do a comparison real quick. The hardness was turned up for the left side, and we have it turned down for the right side, and I'll just go ahead and show what that looks like when you go in here and adjust all of the settings. We can go ahead and select the entire subject, and now that we have gone ahead and selected our subject, we're going to copy, and you can see a great example here because we'll get rid of the old photo, put the new one in, and you can now see why you don't necessarily want to adjust that setting too much, because if you look over here, you can see it's kind of blurry and a little bit faded, but if you look over here, when we have the hardness turned down a little bit, you can tell just how much cleaner it looks. You don't want to mess with that setting too much because you will get a jagged edge effect, and that does not look good when you put it on top of other subjects. However, you can see here that the picture did a pretty good job, and Photoshop does a really good job selecting the subject that you want to automatically choose. So if you look here, you can see it's not a very jagged line, and when you have it in a yearbook printed out somewhere, say actual size is going to be more like this, and maybe a couple more, you're really not going to notice anything going on with it because you're going to have multiple subjects kind of all over the place, and you're not going to be focusing on just the one jagged edge because there's going to be other things, and it's going to be printed really small. So, all in all, that's a tutorial on how to cob an image the easy way. Thank you for watching.